Welcome back to the Infested family home. It's late and the kids are fast asleep. Mum and Dad are still awake. Over the last few weeks, we've seen them live side by side with all sorts of bugs and creepy crawlies. You'd have thought they could be alone somewhere in the house. The shower, perhaps. Sadly, not.
Within the shower system, there's these slimy layers. If you take an area the size of, say, a 1p piece, there would be millions, if not billions, of bacteria living there. Many of them are totally harmless. But there have been surveys that have reported the presence of the bacterium which causes Legionnaire's disease, a pneumonia-like illness which can be very serious. When the shower has been switched on, if it's not been in use for a while, the force of the water whooshing by can force some of the bacteria to detach, and then it can actually be inside the little droplets of water, the mist that you can see when you're in the shower. And the bacteria are then going into our airways and towards the lung area, and they start to cause damage, and then the disease process begins.
Fortunately, that's not likely to happen, unless you're already very weak from another illness. But the showerhead isn't the only source of microbes.
Inside the holes in your sponge, there will be skin fragments, there will be grease, there will be hair, there will be fibers, and all these things can act as a food source for germs.
Journey inside, and you can see evidence of Mum's last shower. Stuck to the branches of the sponge are fragments of her skin, like these ones, surrounded by bacteria. The way the microbes are moved around can be highlighted using special filming techniques.
The bathroom is quite a warm environment, so the organisms can continue to survive and maybe also grow and increase in numbers within the sponge itself. Some bacteria can multiply every 20 minutes, and very, very quickly, we've got very, very large numbers present.
If the sponge has been lying around for a few days in the warmth and wet, it may be harboring teeming millions of germs. When you squeeze the sponge over yourself and massage it all over your skin, you may be transferring these germs from the sponge onto you.
A £500,000 home on a quiet mews in a sought-after part of London. The pride and joy of PR director Katie Rowan, who's lived here for 18 months.
I had searched for a new house to live in for probably about 3 years. So, as you can imagine, I was absolutely over the moon to get a house like this, which is perfect for entertaining, for dinners, for drinks. Everybody that comes to my house here always says how lucky you are, and I often think, if only you knew.
When the evening is over and the guests have gone, Katie is far from alone.
I lie in bed at night and I can hear scuttling behind the walls, underneath the floor. They were in the ceiling at one point. I mean, it's horrific. It's like something out of a horror movie.
Katie's dream house is infested with mice.
Every night now I put earplugs in because they wake me up. Nothing compares to being woken up in the middle of the night by scuttling, thinking that something's going to fall on your head or your hair or crawl in your ear or something horrific like that.
So, a year ago, Katie called in a pest controller.
I looked under the cupboard under the stairs. There was all droppings in and around her shoes. There was dead mice behind this immersion heater. You could smell it. It absolutely stunk. When you opened the cupboard, it absolutely stunk. There was a dead mouse under there. There was mice droppings on top of the boiler. I mean, there was just mice everywhere.
So where were they coming from?
And I'm sure there was a dead one under there because it was really stinking for ages.
Tony laid bait which killed all the mice, except at the very back of the house, where they kept reappearing.
We done the courtyard at the back. We were still getting a problem there. We done the bedroom. We were still getting a problem in there as well, which leaves only one explanation, that it could be the neighbours.
The neighbours are the exclusive Portland hospital, where anyone who's anyone has their babies.
Tony and I worked out that my house here is the only house in the terrace which shares party walls with the hospital, and that's where the mice were coming through from.
Hence the sleepless nights. Or not. The hospital said they were victims too, not the source.
The mouse problem is endemic to this area because of the location above the underground. There is no evidence that we can find to demonstrate that the mice that are going into Katie's house are coming from the Portland.
The nightly scuttling continued. When Tony visited the hospital, he found mouse droppings in storerooms. But whether or not the Portland is the source of Katie's infestation, she's had enough.
I've lived with it now for over a year. I'm going to give it another few months, and if it's not sorted out, then quite frankly, I'm just going to sell this place.
Hi, Elizabeth, is it?
Yes.
Kevin Shawkill, Pest Control.
All right.
Right.
On the road again in Leeds with pest controller Kevin Moore. Over a quarter of his call-outs are to students. This time, their unlikely claim is that their kitchen is infested with crickets.
Whereabouts are you seeing them?
The problem is down there in the corner.
In this corner here?
And I think there's a few of them crawling around.
Oh, right. Actually, it's not crickets.
Oh, right.
I thought it were really strange that, you know.
The crickets turn out to be beetles, but Elizabeth still isn't amused.
Let's see, we are.
Oh!
You'll actually see somewhere around here.
I thought this was quite a new place, which is why we chose it, and chose it specifically not to have to live with such things. We didn't want to have bugs and things in our house.
These are larder beetles. They invade kitchens and live off scraps.
It's just easy to do. It's basically just spraying it, and you can't mop your floor for 10 to 15 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, oh God, don't be shocked. Don't tell me you mop your floor.
Oh, no. Wash it once a week.
Okay.
Mop it once a week, but...
Your floor's going to be a bit slippy and it's going to take about an hour to dry. So just
what
don't
about
mop.
food and that around?
Yeah, your food's fine. It's all on your tops. I'm not spraying your tops at all. I'm merely concentrating on your bottom.
Okay.
Okay. I mean bottom of your floor, that is.
Yeah.
Okay. Not concentrating on your bottom as you're walking out. Sorry, that was a wrong word to say, wasn't it?
It's been a long day, but it's about to get longer. A quick check under the hall carpet reveals the whole place is infested.
Found some in your hallway as well, so I'm going to need to spray all your ground floor, all this carpet level.
Okay.
Is that okay? It's not going to inconvenience you, is it, at all?
We'll go to the pub.
Is that all right, yeah?
It's itching already. I really am. I hate it. I don't know. We just don't want to be seen as smelly, scabby students because we're really not. This place is dirty from other students. So I want everyone to know that.
And now everyone does. Unfortunately for Kevin, though, one of the hazards of the job, apart from infestation by bugs, is infestation by students.
So that room's not going to get done, unfortunately. I'll have to come back and spray that one when it cleans it up.
But at least they won't have beetles in their kitchen anymore. Or will they? It could be worse than they think. They might even have them in their food. And so might you.
We eat insects all the time. If you think there are 18 million individual insects on Earth, it's almost inconceivable that you would not be eating a small piece of an insect at some stage in your life. In the course of about 50 years, if you added up all the bits, all the tiny bits of insects, all the little legs, all the little heads, all the wings, you would fill a jar about this big with insect bits.
But many of them we eat whole and alive. Like cheese mites, for example, which love nothing more than some nice, sweaty cheddar.
Mites are not insects. They are more closely related to spiders. They have 8 legs, but they're very, very small, about 0.5 millimetre or a pinprick in a piece of paper. They do produce a smell, although the smell of the cheese is the cheese's own smell. Some people say it's minty, others say that it smells very, very sour. I had a boss years ago who said it smelt like a little boy who'd peed his corduroy trousers. But we can guarantee that most people have eaten mites or mite remains sometime in their lives.
So, if you've just had cheese with your dinner, here's what you may have eaten, magnified over 2,000 times by an electron microscope.
The commonest insect in the pantry is actually the book louse.
A big starch lover which got its name devouring the glue in book bindings. Nowadays, it prefers your bread. In fact, infestations of book lice are becoming more and more common.
If you keep the bread for a little bit longer than normal and it's in a bag where book lice can get in, because they don't chew through packaging, they get through the gaps, then you could well have book lice feeding on the bread.
They come indoors by accident, but bread in a humid cupboard will tempt them to stay.
One of the problems we have is that the younger stages of book lice are colourless. So unless you have remarkably good eyesight, you won't even see them.
And it gets worse. After the break,
you certainly wouldn't see the adults there because of the seeds and depressions in the biscuit.
Plus, stowaways.
I'm extremely lucky, really, that it hasn't burst into flames and caused serious injury to somebody.
At this infested house, lunch is becoming less appetizing by the mouthful.
Nematodes are very, very fine worm-like creatures, usually colourless, thread-like. They have no distinguishing features at all, possibly 5 to 10 millimetres in length. They're invertebrates that live in the soil, almost always affecting the roots of plants. So the nematode could well be present in the leaves of the lettuce we eat.
Delicious. And how do you fancy a few of these on your biscuits? They're the caterpillars of the Indian meal moth, and you might think they're unmissable.
Although you would see the larger larvae and the adults, you certainly wouldn't see the tiny larvae. And their breeding rate is about 50-fold increase per month. So you can end up with a massive infestation within 2 or 3 months. The droppings, which are called frass, that's the technical word for insect poo, they will be spread across the biscuits. You can't brush that off easily. And although you might not mind eating insects, you don't want to eat the droppings necessarily.
And then there's the saw-toothed grain beetle, magnified here 350 times. It's partial to this sort of thing.
You certainly wouldn't see the adults there because of the seeds and depressions in the biscuit. And in that case, we've got an even higher breeding rate. If you start off with 100 beetles, in a month's time you've got about 6,000. And in 2 months' time, if everything went well for the beetles, you'd have over 1/3 I mean, how many people these days tap a biscuit on the table and wait to see if insects come out of it? Nobody does that.
But sailors did until the 1800s to check for beetles in ship's biscuits. Perhaps Dad should have taken a leaf out of their book, then he might have spotted these. Bon appetit.
Having recently got back together, Chris was cooking me dinner and I was down for the weekend just to see his new house, where he was living and whether he changed or not.
It was kind of an important meal, really, just because, you know, we're getting back together and we were talking, and so the meal was, you know, building up to this evening that we were going to have this long chat.
Well, the pasta in the pan was boiling away quite nicely, and I noticed all these small brown things coming up to the surface.
She was saying, oh, the weevils, and I said, no, they're fine, you know, it'll be fine, it's boiling so hot that it won't infect food.
It just looked absolutely disgusting. I didn't know what they were, I didn't know where they'd come from, but they were sitting there in the pasta and there was just no way I was going to touch the stuff.
I would have eaten it, because with there being, there's about a dozen tops.
I don't know what it is about women, maybe we just notice things a little bit more than men.
Every December outside this house near Romford in Essex, Tony Old and his son decorate the Christmas tree with lights. Every year except 1999, that is. Up in the garage loft, Tony found his Christmas tree lights weren't how he left them last year.
To my amazement, all the bags had been chewed up. I had little pieces of wire and bulbs everywhere, all up in the loft, been chewed to pieces.
Mice. And as Tony was about to discover, they had bigger plans, much bigger plans. He and his wife own his and hers BMWs worth a total of £50,000. But to a mouse, these are no more out of bounds than Christmas tree lights.
The following morning, me and my wife was going shopping, and while we were driving along, I noticed the fuel gauge light was on. And with filling the car up, the light stayed on. So I booked the vehicle into the local BMW garage.
We found that the problem was the wiring to the fuel sender, which is actually located inside the car, underneath the back seats. It had been completely chewed through.
But at least the other car, Tony's prized 2.8-litre 3 Series convertible, was in one piece.
The following morning, I've gone out to go to work and got in my car and gone to start it, and it wouldn't start. I lifted up the bonnet and I just couldn't believe what I saw.
Whatever it was, it actually chewed clean through the alarm wiring, which had basically caused the car to stop. It had also chewed through various other sensor and coolant sensor and air pressure temperature sensor and God only knows what. On closer examination, underneath the inlet manifold, there was a nest, which included a cigarette packet, cotton wool, ears of corn, all sorts of things.
Assembled by daredevil, death-defying mice.
I was just totally amazed that animals could live in an engine which is being driven along 2 or 3 times a day, every day.
It was extremely lucky in both cases, really. The wiring cuts could have really affected a fire in both of the cars, which would have been catastrophic for him.
For some, just being infested is catastrophic enough. Pest controller Matt Wheeler sees it all the time.
Hello. Pest control. About these cluster flies. About these cluster flies.
That's what you call them.
Yeah. Is there no light up here, Mrs.
No,
McRae?
I told you there wasn't.
Pardon?
I warned you that there wasn't.
What did you see? What was the problem?
Flies.
Valerie McRae believes a dead bird in her loft 2 years ago attracted an infestation of flies, and that they might be back.
Have you been getting them falling out of the loft, Mrs. McRae?
Well, they fly around the house, but also the little bedroom here gets quite a few. I picked up about 4 from the floor only the other day.
Matt, what do you look for when you're looking for cluster flies?
Clusters of flies. Oh, hang on, we might be getting some joy over here. Yeah, there are flies up here. I wonder where they're clustering. Aha, bingo. Found them. Having a full-on disco over here.
Cluster flies hibernate in lofts over the winter. They find each other by smell and cluster together for protection. The more flies there are, the stronger the smell in the loft, and the more likely they are to return.
It's the pheromone lure which draws them back to the same place. Hence, some people are unlucky. They'd have a problem with cluster flies year in, year out, every other year, depending on weather. And neighbours don't get any of those problems at all.
Have any of your neighbours had any cluster fly?
No idea. It's not the thing you talk about to neighbours anyhow, is it? I'm disgusted. But it's not very nice, is it? It makes it sort of look as though it's not clean, isn't it?
No matter who you are, you know, you could be landed gentry living in some huge country manor, or you can be in the middle of Marsh Farm, Luton. It doesn't matter who you are. You know, pests are no respecter of person. It's not your fault that you've got cluster flies in your loft.
Yeah.
It's just one of them things. Well, I'm just going to get up there and get this thing blitzed. Anyway, it'll only take me a couple of minutes.
Matt fumigates Valerie's loft, but he may well be back, because so may the flies. Over the last few weeks, this house has been the scene of damage and disease, bites and contamination. You'd be forgiven for thinking your home is a chamber of horrors. But there are 2 sides to every story. Finally, time for the other side.
Insects are a part of our natural environment, and it's very important for us to appreciate that we shouldn't go out there trying to kill everything. Even within your home, you can actually achieve a sort of comfortable balance of nature. For example, spiders, on the whole, are extremely beneficial in houses. They are your friends, and if you kill them, you take away the one organism that can actually take away some of the things that pose a risk as far as disease transmission is concerned.
I don't think eating any of these insects is a cause for concern. I don't mean we make a habit of it, but the risk to the human, the risk to us when we're eating them is probably negligible. The beetles and the moths are simply an additional form of protein and roughage, and maybe we should think of them like that.
The bacteria that we most come into contact with fall into the good guy category. They perform a very useful role. Lots of bacteria have the ability to take lots of our waste products and they degrade those. Others of the good guys are used in antibiotics, pharmaceuticals, medicines that we need in society.
Flies are actually quite useful. Although we think of them as a real nuisance, if it weren't for things like bluebottles, corpses of rats or any other animal would lie around an awful lot longer and smell an awful lot more than in fact they do. Because of the action of maggots, they're quickly disposed of and recycled into new living material, the flies.
I get very aggravated by the general response to insects, to bugs, creepy crawlies. And that reaction is generally, horrible, oh, creepy crawly, you know, ooh. If you understand how an insect lives, if you know how it lives, if you can see how it lives and how it feeds, how it breeds, it becomes interesting. It's not an alien anymore. And when things are not alien, you aren't afraid of them.
This house is in Hitchin, Hertfordshire. You'll be a regular guest over the next 4 weeks, visiting and revisiting the family who live here, or rather the creatures who live with them. This evening, the kids are fast asleep. Mum and Dad are still up. They're not the only ones, though. They live in one of 800,000 homes in the UK that are shared by something particularly nasty. The most reviled and feared of all household pests is creeping about right under their feet, down through the floorboards. Rats.
You can find rats now almost everywhere in the United Kingdom. There's been an 18% increase in the number of people complaining about rat infestations over the last 12 months. If you've got a street of houses, of 50 houses, with 25 houses on each side of the street, then 2 houses in that street will have rats.
An extended family of them, extending all the time.
The male rats in a colony don't have any particular preference for any particular females. They'll mate with any female that's available. It might be their mother, it might be their sister, it might be their aunt. A pair of Norway rats can breed into maybe 500 plus rats in the space of 12 months.
But most worrying of all,
they've got very hard teeth. They're able to gnaw through wood, tin, aluminium. On the scale of hardness, they have teeth which are as hard as concrete in some cases. As they gnaw, you get a very, very sharp cutting edge developing. If they didn't gnaw, then eventually the teeth would go very long, almost tusk-like, in a big tusk-like curl. And in some cases, they come back and they penetrate the skull and kill the animal. This gnawing ability that they have can lead to very significant levels of damage. A good example, for instance, is their ability to gnaw through electric cables.
While Kevin boards the passengers, resulted to plan B.
Now, a consequence of that is going to be the potential to create fires and burn down houses. And in some parts of the world, insurance companies won't insure buildings unless they have a contract for rodent control at the same time.
The problem started just over 2 years ago. I woke up one evening, well, during the night, and my daughter was wondering what all the noise was above our heads.
I live in Folkestone in Kent, and for the last year, my house had been infested with rats.
They were biting through the beams, sharpening their teeth, loads of rat toiletry everywhere.
One time when I got my slippers out of the cupboard, I found 2 dead rats in where they'd eaten the bait and then they'd gone in there to die.
As far as I knew, rats would only come into like dirty, unhealthy properties, unless I do keep the house very clean. You know, it was very embarrassing.
It's just the embarrassment that and the smell. It's like decomposed cabbage is the only really horrible smell.
They've never actually established how they are coming in. So as far as I know, if you don't know how they're coming in, then you don't know where to sort the problem out.
Jessica Berry is a journalist who works from home in London. She lives by herself, or at least she thinks she does.
It was about the end of August when things started
being a bit odd. In my flat, I'd hear sort of strange rustles and bumps. And then one day I was sitting at my desk, and then I heard a crashing in the bathroom, and this plate had smashed the floor. One morning I came in, there were all these little black footprints on the kitchen counter. Finally I saw it, and it was a really large rat. And I really didn't know what to do about it, because there was only one, so I thought there's no much point calling Rent-A-Kill for one rat.
Oh, but there is, as Jessica would discover. What she didn't know was that the rat was travelling around her flat inside the sewage pipes. And one evening, when it was heading for Jessica's toilet, so was Jessica.
I'd say the distance between me and the rat that horrible night was probably about this much.
This time, just one rat was a perfectly good reason to call out a pest controller. Jessica phoned dozens, but no one could help for 2 days, which left her alone with the rat.
My friends thought I was mad to be staying there, but there was no other place I could go to. Just the thought of having a bath with this thing that could be in the loo just filled me with dread. I did feel very creepy, but at the same time, there was a bath in there, so I had to use it.
Eventually, the council got rid of the rat. It had been coming in from the garden through a gap in an outside drain, and Jessica was left in peace again.
But I've never seen anything this big inside a house before, and I hope I never will again.
Kevin Moore is about to have a gruesome day, but that's not unusual. He's been a pest controller for 12 years and now has his own business.
I was unemployed for quite some time, just lived on a council estate, really down and out in a sense, and just unemployed and really down about it. So what I did was I went to the job centre and said, give me anything, and this is the only thing they could actually find, which nobody else wanted.
He's been called to an unoccupied flat in the centre of Leeds. The landlords had complaints from the neighbours who had been having problems with flies.
I had it was last week sometime, it was a couple of flies initially, and then I thought it was just a normal fly thing, it was getting cold. And then it came to about 10 flies every 20 minutes. For some reason, I was just killing loads of them.
And there's another thing. It's getting a bit whiffy.
Oh, right, smell that smell. That's a dead rat. Oh, wow, look at this, mate. Right, what you've got here is loads and loads of blue bottles, and this is from dead rats, or dead rats. Right, I'm going to lift your floor up and see what we've got under here, which I think will be interesting. Maybe a dead rat, maybe live rats even, who knows. But just put this up, just watch yourself and stand back, because I don't know what's going to be under here. Oh, yes. So there might be still rats still alive in here. Oh, look at this. This is nice. It's just been chewed, is that? And this is where they've been getting in. What they'll have been doing is coming out of here and then actually coming up. And you can see the feet might with a crawling onto this pipe and then running underneath. If we can find it, we'll remove it, and it'll be really good if we can find it. They're dirty sods, though, aren't they? Really. I'd really like to find this dead rat, though. It's really bugging me. You've obviously worked out by now, but... Oh, I found it. Wonderful. Oh, brilliant. How good's that? It's rather dead or it's alive. This is just so cool. Because, do you know, I won't give in, My girlfriend always says to me, just give in and go out, or... Do you know, I just won't. I never give in. And it's paid off. Oh, so I'll get the boiler suit out of the van.
Are you not worried it might be alive?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I don't want to lose any fingers at this stage. This one hopefully is dead, because it smells dead. But I'll get my gear on and we'll get it out. If I can reach it, it's sort of here. And you can see it, but I'll pull it out so you can see it. This is great find, though, isn't it?
After the break, will Kevin keep his fingers? the infestation from hell, and winged invaders.
There's been thousands of them. It's unbelievable. You'd have to see it to believe it.
In Leeds, at the flat with the rat, it's time for Kevin to meet what's under the floorboards.
Right, here we go.
Do you ever worry when you do jobs like this? It might be alive and...
You're really scaring me now, you know. Don't keep reminding me it might be still alive, because I'm getting a bit paranoid myself now. No, I'm not worried at all. I mean, if it's alive, then it's alive. I'll just have to pull it out quick and whack its head somewhere, really. Not very pleasant, I know. Animal rights will be slashing my tyres, won't they? But it's just one of those things. You've just got to get in there and get it out, mate, because you can smell the smell and what it's leaving. The reason I haven't put my boiler suit fully up is I really want to get my hands in there and sort of pull it out. There we are. Come on, my little fella. Come on, out you go. Oh! This is it. This is the rat. And this is the one that's causing all the damage. There he is. That is a Norway rat, commonly known as a brown rat. Ratus navegicus is the Latin name for it. But what's amazing is this fella is running under your floorboards where you live. It's hard to believe that, isn't it? So they're actually in sewers around you. Right, I'm going to bag this now, because it's stinking the place out.
Good idea. But what Kevin doesn't know yet is there's another rat down there, and this one's alive.
Just need to do the flies now. Never a dull day.
There are 5,000 kinds of fly in Britain. A few dozen of those come into our homes, and it's usually an honest mistake. But not for bluebottles. They do it deliberately.
If you're unfortunate enough to have a dead animal, say a rat under your floorboards, then that will certainly attract them in. Once they find the body, they'll lay 50 or 100 or so eggs.
The fly tucks them under the fur, so they're well protected.
And the eggs hatch quite quickly, usually within about 24 hours, and then the maggots rapidly devour the body that's there. And a maggot is really just an eating machine. It has a mouth at the front, and it's basically a crawling stomach.
And when they're full up, the maggots become adult flies and find more disgusting places to feed.
They're amazing flying machines. In fact, in proportion to their size, the top speed of a fly is about 10 times that of Concorde. In addition to what Concorde can do, a fly can hover in the air like a helicopter, can fly backwards. If it so chooses, it can fly upside down. They're really quite incredible what they can do.
Unfortunately, they sometimes use these incredible skills to head our way. Not good news considering where they've just been.
The adult fly can only feed on liquids, and it's a very messy feeder. The mouth parts are like a hollow stick with a sponge on the end. And what they do when they find a bit of food, they land on it, and they then spew up part of their stomach contents mixed with saliva, and then it paddles it around a bit with its feet and sucks it back up into its stomach. They're constantly transferring bacteria around the environment between very unsavoury things and your lunch.
What the flies leave behind, we eat unawares. And this is what it looks like under the microscope.
So they cause all sorts of infections in humans, like salmonella or amoebic dysentery. And in fact, the fly family as a whole is responsible for millions of human deaths every year.
My home is infested by a plague of flies. The plague started last summer, carried on through to the winter, stopped, and started again this summer.
They just appeared out of nowhere, like they crawled out of the woodwork. And there was just hundreds and hundreds of them.
They've come from a landfill site, so that says it all. I mean, you know what's in a landfill site. It's all rotting, decaying, stinking.
I don't know where they came from. We had the environmental health. They went up in the roof. They checked up there. They checked out in the garden. They checked everywhere.
It's as if they're playing a game with you. They land on you. You brush them off. They land on you. You brush them off. It's usually the same fly as well.
Think what it's like if you've got 20 or 30 of if not more, of these flies buzzing around your head at night and you're trying to sleep.
Some pests you can put up with. You can put up with a wasp's nest because you can get rid of it. But the flies, they do not go away.
Well, in the end, I said to the council, I said, you either get me out of this house or I burn the place down.
Just want rid of them. I don't want to see them back next summer. It's driving us insane.
Remember this one, don't you?
It's the flat with the rat again. And 3 days later, Kevin's back for a routine check.
Oh, baby.
It's not a pretty sight.
Another one bites the dust. Stinks, doesn't it? This one's come back up onto the surface. The other one didn't make it up to the surface. It's just basically because they can't get back into the pipe to get back out, because we've put slabs over the pipe to stop any more rats from coming in. It's quite a funny thing, isn't it, to think that there were rats running under this floor when we were here last time, and now we're there with my hand underneath it.
Fortunately, this is the last of them, and the flat can be rented out again to new tenants.
I love my job, but this is the downside of the job, I think. You never get used to the smell of a dead rat.
And here's another thing you'll never get used to. They infest 30,000 homes in Britain and are as old as the dinosaurs. Of all insects, they're probably the most loathed.
Cockroaches are basically nocturnal, so once you turn the light off at night, the cockroaches will start looking around for food. They'll eat virtually anything: dead skin, grease, oils, food, human food, decaying vegetable or animal matter, virtually anything.
So cockroaches visit lots of filthy areas, including all the nooks and crannies that we don't manage to clean in our households very well, as well as filthy areas outside of the home. And then they come back in, they've got harmful bacteria on their feet, and then they get deposited all over wherever they crawl, foodstuffs, surfaces, they'll have these bacteria there.
Cockroaches move very fast. They can move 50 body lengths per second, and of course they like to run up against edges. They can follow an edge, turning as quickly as 25 twists per second.
They can do that because they've got these.
The antennae can pick up temperature, they can pick up smells, and of course touch. They're a bit, if you like a blind man's walking stick, full of various scientific paraphernalia that can measure all these different environmental factors. Cockroaches are very robust and resilient creatures. For example, if you were to get your bread knife and cut off its head, you'd probably find that the cockroach could survive as long as a week.
A handful of roaches is bad enough, but a full-blown infestation is hell. Kathy Madden is still trying to pick up the pieces of her life, and she's doing pretty well, considering. She's moved home now, but for 10 years she lived here in a council block in Battersea, southwest London, where she brought up her 3 children on her own.
It was a very nice home. The people in the block was friendly. My children used to help me dust and stuff like that, so we were quite clean, house-proud, happy family until the cockroaches moved in. It started off in the kitchen, then it progressed to the bathroom. I tried to keep it contained in those 2 rooms, but then it started to spread through the flat, and then eventually it was just out of control everywhere.
There were episodes that pushed Kathy to the limit.
We used to have little spy holes when people knocked the door. And one day, somebody knocked the door and I went up to answer the door and I looked through the spy and there's one looking directly in my eye.
Kathy would spend hours rocking in her chair. The council would come and spray, but the cockroaches were living in communal rubbish chutes and always returned, eventually infesting the entire block.
And one night I heard this rustling and I looked across and it was this great humongous cockroach, not a little one, on my pillow by the side of my face, looking directly at me, or its antenna was pointed in my direction, and I freaked.
But the worst was yet to come. One evening, Kathy was watching television, her baby son Jack asleep beside her, having just had his bottle.
And I looked over and there was 4 in his mouth, by the side of his mouth. And one of them was actually like right in the corner and it was licking the inside of his mouth.
Kathy decided enough was enough.
I caught 20 cockroaches in a jar and I decided to go down to Wandsworth Council. Went upstairs and this man was at his desk. He was very much enjoying his sandwich with his cup of tea. And I opened the jar and he said, please don't let them go. Please don't. And I said, no, no, no. I've lived with them long enough. It's your turn now. And I slammed the jar on the table.
Kathy was arrested, cautioned, and sent back to her cockroach-infested home. So she sued Wandsworth Council and won. She was given a new home and moved immediately, leaving all her belongings behind. But she hasn't left the memories behind.
I'm actually at the moment feeling very cold. Even though I'm not bodily cold, I'm actually shivering inside because just talking about it is quite stressful. If anybody said to me, well, I've got a cure, you could go hypnosis, I say no, because I don't want to deal with it. I just don't want to deal with it at all.
Next week, they contaminate your food.
Realising that I've been eating mouse droppings just really turned my stomach.
They drink your blood.
I had no idea that these creatures still existed.
They'll even devour your home.
There is a risk that, as we speak, they are eating someone else's house.